What's up, everybody? I'm Aslan Hajavandi, joined by managing editor of Warchant.com, Ira Schoffel. It's Warchant TV, so hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, lower right corner, but make sure you hit that like button. Sends it out to everybody. There's people out there that love the Noles, Ira, that doesn't even know that Warchant exists.
We got to change that.
We got to change that, everybody. And we do that by bringing you great content. Ira's been working on a video feature here with a former Nole who's helping a current Nole maybe become a future All-ACC, maybe All-American.
Yeah, we'll see. We're not going to hype him too much. But yeah, one of the big stories, interesting stories of preseason camp has been Shyheim Brown, the young defensive back from over in Lake City, Columbia High School, who wasn't one of the highest recruited guys. He was kind of a late offer, jumped right on, joined this class. FSU brought in a lot of highly touted DBs. He was not one of them from the ranking standpoint, but has had a really good camp. And Brian Allen, his former high school coach, former Nole, played during the Dynasty, All-ACC linebacker, played in the NFL, basically had to kind of reach out to Florida State because nobody was really recruiting him. Mid-major schools were recruiting him. He reached out, put his neck out there, and reached out to Mike Norvell and the staff and said, hey, I really want you guys to just look at his film. They did that. They extended the offer. They loved him. And it's all been rewarded because he's had a really good camp. So we wanted to sit down with Mike Langston and I, who covered Shyheim Brown coming out of high school and covered Brian Allen's team at Lake City. Sat down with Coach Allen and just kind of try to figure out how did this happen? How did he kind of get lost during the recruiting shuffle? And what kind of young man he is, what kind of player he is, what we expect from him. The video process was a little tricky. We did it on Zoom, had a couple of technical issues. You can't always hear. Coach Allen was on his cell phone, so sometimes the wording doesn't match up with the audio, but the audio is good. And it gets better as the video gets on. So I just want to encourage people to stay with it because it's a really insightful conversation. And he kind of talks about how Shyheim Brown fits in, but also kind of what FSU needs to get back to have the success that they had in the Dynasty. So I'm glad that we were able to bring it to you, and I hope people enjoy it.
It's my job to now hide all that if possible. So from the comfort of Ira Schoffel's home.
And really, thank you to Brian Allen because he bared with me. This is about a 30-minute video. I'm not sure exactly, but he hung with us through all the technical difficulties, and there were a lot of them. So we really appreciate the help, Coach.
There you guys go.
Well, the reason, it's always good to talk to you, but one of the main reasons we wanted to talk to you right now is because one of your proteges has been kind of tearing it up over Florida State's preseason camp, Shyheim Brown. And Shyheim is a guy who, during the recruiting process, when Florida State came in and offered him kind of late in the process, he had some offers from other schools, but a lot of people weren't as familiar with Shyheim. But, I know Michael had gone over and watched him play and came back and was telling everybody on our recruiting boards and telling me and the other guys on the staff that this kid could really play, but we weren't as familiar with him. But he really has, kind of got off to a great start in preseason camp. We'll see how it translates. It's a lot to ask of a true freshman to play a lot, but he certainly has made an impression. Michael, if you want to go ahead and start off just talking about when you went over and watched Shyheim play and why you were so confident he could help out at Florida State.
Yeah, so, went over there, obviously contacted Brian. We hooked up, and obviously I've known Brian for a long time. And so hooked up, told him we were coming over, interviewed Shyheim, then went out. Me and Brian just chatted, talked about a lot of personal stuff. And then, I told Brian, I was like, here's some stuff he said. And it's like, and I said, the one thing that stuck out to me about Shyheim, before even I saw the game, I told Shyheim, I was like, well, this could be your last game. What are you looking to get out of that? He's like, this won't be my last game. Like he was like, look me dead in the eye, like this is not happening. Like I'm going to win. We are going to win and mind you, Ira, they weren't favored in that game. They were playing, I think St. Augustine, who was favored in that game to probably win. But this kid was so ultra confident in his abilities. So that immediately captured me. The interview captured me when I talked to him, just the mindset. Remind me so much of Travis J when I spent all the time with Travis and just the confidence, the work ethic. It was old school like. And so then Brian's like, look, you're going to like this kid. Just watch, Mike, just watch. I'll leave it to you. And so I went out there, watched this kid play like linebacker. I think he was middle linebacker. Sometimes they moved him to the outside linebacker. And this kid was everywhere. This wasn't even his natural position. This kid was everywhere. I lost count after 15 tackles because he was in so many tackles. And then special teams, he was the lead gunner. He was always down there first. This kid never slowed down. I I don't know what Brian and them do as far as training, but these guys' system, as far as cardiovascular system, was unreal. I was just so impressed with the way this kid carried himself. And even the pregame, I watched a lot of kids to see what they do in pregame. Some kids are like, hey, you take pictures of them, they're kind of jacked up. This kid was just locked in, like staring into, like, hey, I know what I'm about to do. I'm about to just rip somebody's head off. I'm about to just kill somebody or something. And he was just so dominant and quick in space and tackling. He was so good in coverage. He's so quick. His hands are very he's got very good hands. He's just all over the field. It's like every time, it's like when Ira told me the other night, like, this kid's making plays everywhere, Mike. I'm like, dude, that's the same stuff I saw in Lake City. Like, that's what he does. But I think what makes this kid special is the way his preparation is and just the mindset he has. This kid, you're not going to outwork this kid, and he just makes plays. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. The kid can play linebacker, safety, corner. You can play him anywhere. He's just a guy that's going to make plays.
Well, Coach, I saw you nodding as Michael was talking. I'm sure it all sounded familiar to you because you saw it during his whole career. Could you take us back through his career and kind of how he developed? Was he that guy from day one when he stepped foot on at the high school, or how did his career kind of evolve?
Well, it's interesting. It first starts with his older brother that played for me that went to Weber State in Utah. Then I had a set of twin brothers that are his older brothers as well. One was a stud at Ole Miss, and he was the guy 2 years ago that ran the 4.29 in the 40 that went to Jaguar and had a hurt foot in Zedrick Woods. Y'all had another brother, the other twin with the FAMU, just unbelievably smart. And then he's the fourth one that I had here a year ago. So he comes from a lineage of athletes. He's been able to experience some of the college scene with those brothers and the hype around it. But he's just a little different. He's the tallest one of all of them that I've had. And he's probably the most versatile of all of them that I had. But one thing that was in common with each of them was just unbelievable heart that each of those boys had that I had the opportunity to coach. And it didn't fall short with him as well. Had to watch him from league to being in middle school, playing receiver when he was in middle school, and kind of rubbing my hands together, knowing I was going to get this opportunity for this receiver that was coming. And then all of a sudden, he gets there and he wants to play DB, and he could have played anywhere. one thing that I really had a strong belief in is wasn't a two-way system. Now, a year ago, we had to do after an 0-5 start and not practicing all summer and eight days of practice before we played our first game. We had to do whatever it took after 0-5 to get that ship going the right way. And he played receiver, he played kickoff return guy, he played linebacker, he played a little bit of wherever we needed him. And we got help. I thought the kid was good for a long time, and it's kind of crazy just being here that kids that I think are surefire no-brainers over these 10 years of this recruitment stuff, man. It makes you scratch your head a ton. And Shyheim was one of those guys that I'm like, FAU calling FIU, and they're not even, like we want to offer you, and it's a done. No, it was kind of, they're playing the fence. So,
right.
Just was a head scratcher for me, because again, I knew that this kid is that type of guy that he could go to any Power 5 school and he's going to contribute right away anywhere. And at the end of the day, I've made calls to FSU with different guys being there, and some guys that I thought for sure again were surefire guys, and they did go to Power 5 schools and they're playing great football, but it didn't happen, at the alma mater. But picked up the phone and made a call. Coach said reach out whenever you want, and I did. And it was not, take my word for it. It was like, just watch the film and give me a shout back. And it didn't take long. And man, I was just elated. I never pushed them to go to Florida State. All the kids that I had an opportunity to help get scholarships, I never pushed them to go to Florida State. But I always wanted to make sure, as an alumnus, a lover of that program, that I did do my due diligence and call when I had a guy that I felt could play at that level and at home, as I call it. And for sure, he's making me real proud right now.
You know, it's funny when you were talking about the brothers, because I remember the piece that Michael wrote when he went over there and did a story on him. One of Shyheim's quotes back then was about how when he was younger and his brothers would ask him how he played or how he did. And Michael might remember the quote, but he said something like, "I thought I did okay," or something. And his brothers were like, "No, man, it's never okay. Like you got to be the best. You got to believe you're the best at all times." Michael, you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he mentioned like, yeah, I had a really good game. I had a good game, and the guys were like, "No, you got to have a perfect game. Like that's the way we play. That's the way our family plays." And so that pushed Shyheim to just be imperfect about everything, which is probably why Ira sees him making plays like every single day. Hurt, coming in, whatever. But as to Brian's point, he told the coaches like, "Hey, just check out the film on your own." I go a step further than that. Just go to the game and watch this kid, because the film doesn't do it justice of how good this kid is when you see him live. When you see him live, it's totally different. Like my impression of Shyheim, I saw some things I liked on film, but then I saw him in person. I'm like, he does so many more things that I didn't realize as far as how he impacts the game. Well, I watched him on the sideline. That's the stuff you don't see in film. Watching how he reacts on the sidelines, how locked in he is as a teammate, and then just as a competitor, this kid competes. Like you're not going to outcompete him, and that's why I've always ledged him and Travis J together, because they have the same mindset. Like I told Brian yesterday, if they get 11 dudes like these two guys, they're going to have a really good team. Because the mindset is where that's old FSU. But my question for Brian would be, I mean, what's it like coaching somebody that's basically a mirror of you, of the way you prepared and way you played, Brian? What was that like every day to coach this kid?
I mean, it's something that's fun, Mike. And I did a few interviews, with the passing of Coach Bowden. And one thing that I said was that, Coach will live forever just for the seeds that he dropped, as a leader. And that's the thing for me. These 10 years of coaching, man, they were great, had fun, a lot of great competitive games, met a lot of great competitive coaches, all those things. But for me, it's what legacy did you leave behind? And when you got a kid that plays the way you played, the mentality you played it with, go in the classroom doing what you're supposed to. He has a hard-nosed mom that doesn't play it. She will tell me on a Friday if he hadn't done what he's supposed to, he's not playing. And she's not asking me. She's telling me he's not playing. She did it with all three of the other ones in front of him. And that was just how my mom was. So, it was just sharing my experiences all the time with these guys. And one thing I remember coming into coaching, I had someone tell me, just because you're a good football player doesn't mean you're a good coach. You're absolutely right. But when you're a good leader, you're always a good leader. And that's something that I've always taken pride in. And that's just how I tried to exemplify things with the guys all the time, whether it was Shyheim or whether it was any of them there. That's how I wanted to be done from the weight room. He's tearing it up on the field right now, but I can guarantee you he went in that weight room. He knew how to power clean. He knew how to front squat. He knew how to do the things that were important, but taking care of your body as well. Took pride in that. I took a whole lot of pride in that. And then he goes to college and he's doing the same things that he was doing here. And that, that's the thing that got me noticed when I first got there. I didn't have stars or I didn't have the name, but when I showed up and I ran a 4.47 and I benched 430, Coach Amato was like, this dude's going to be different. So, he's doing the same thing. I shared those stories with him as well. And, he's going up there and I told him, I think he mentioned in an interview, go up there with your head down, man. You're going to work. It don't care what anybody else had accolades coming in before you. You go do what you need to do. And listen, you'll have all of that stuff before it's all said and done. And I'm just, again, elated that he's going and he's doing that. Head down, make it plays, shut your mouth. Now, when you get a little tenure under your belt, you might talk a little bit of trash, but shut your mouth, do what you're supposed to, go make plays, and you won't have to worry about the stuff that you missed in high school.
Well, you can also, I think he's taking that approach, but you can see the confidence. So he was walking by the media yesterday or the day before, and we were all doing interviews, and he walked behind us. He was like, best secondary in the country right here. And, he was just letting everybody know he feels good about this group that they've got. But how, on that topic, we'll come back to Shyheim, but I've always been impressed by how many former FSU guys are coaching now. Yourself and Kyler and just across, even the younger guys like Greg Carr, who didn't play that long ago, and all these guys. How much pride do you take in that when you see other Seminoles go into coaching and like you said, kind of following the footsteps of, the Coach Bowdens, the Coach Amatos, Coach Andrews, and all of them?
Yeah, again, it shows you during that era of what the leadership of the leadership that was there during that time. If it wasn't that case, you wouldn't have these guys that are going off coaching, having success where they are, again, developing other leaders. I think that's the biggest compliment to anyone that's a coach, that's a leader, that's in anything, is that under your leadership, you have guys that do the same thing or they go above and beyond because of what you did with them in the time that you had them under you. And again, I think that's one of the biggest compliments that you can have. And like I said, Coach Bowden he's gonna live as long as we're still on this earth, because that process will continue to recycle from, again, the things that he gave each of us. And you say those Derek Gibson is doing it as well. He's
Corey
back
Fuller
in his hometown at exactly, Boucher, and it's just when you play their teams, you see a little bit of what we had during that era. We did the role that we do before practice, and everybody would look at us crazy. But when you look back at Florida State during that era of Coach Bowden, the whistle blew. We were perfectly, because we started in mat drills. That's how they taught us when we first got there during that off-season training program. We're going to do this because this is what we're going to do before every game. About hit that whistle, it was hands to the knees, hands up and forwards, kick the legs out, break them in, do your roll back this way. I made sure we were incorporating that. But when you see those Noles that are coaching now, you see a little bit of Coach Bowden in each one of their programs, man, from it being off-season and mat drills to, some type of thing we're doing in the weight room, something that we're doing on the field. And, I think, again, that's going to continue to plant those seeds that Coach left all of us while he was there.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's a good point to lead into, go about the next thing, Brian, because me and Brian talked about a lot of different subjects when I was there. And Brian talked about, when FSU first recruited you, Coach Gladden came over, really liked the way you did stuff on special teams. And that kind of leads my next thing. I told Ira this. I told you this too. I've never seen a kid that takes more pride in special teams than Shyheim Brown. He didn't even list a position. When I said, what do you like the best? He's like, special teams, like love special teams. What did you notice about him that he liked so much about special teams? When did that start? And why do you think he liked special teams so much?
Man, and you go back to when Coach Gladden came over, and I will never forget, with Coach Gladden, and again, my entire career after high school, is all about Gladden, because he took a major chance. He took a major chance with me and went in and stood on the table for me that this guy's a dog. And that was what his thing was, what he would say. He is a dog. And that's Shyheim's mentality. That was one of the things I said to Coach Norvell. It's like, this dude's a dog. And that goes from Coach Gladden. He said, I don't want, dogs that are house dogs. I want hunting dogs. I want guys that'll go out and hunt. And that's just Shyheim's mentality. Whether you put him on kickoff, he wants to be that guy that's going to blow you up when you're running the ball and you think that you're fixing to go score. He's coming out of nowhere and he's blowing you up. He wants to be back there on kick return because he wants to return one. He wanted to do everything he could week in and week out to help the team win. And whether that was being a receiver, like I said earlier, whether that was having to play middle linebacker, outside linebacker, safety corner, or get out and be the punt returner, the kickoff return man, whether it was having to be the gunner on kickoff, he wanted to do whatever it took to help his football team win games. One of the biggest memories I have with him, and I don't even know if he has it on his highlight. We're playing Robert E. Lee. He had already scored 2 touchdowns on kickoff return, and it was 21-0, I think. On the third one, he pulls his hamstring, what it looks like on film or what it looked like on the sideline, because it went to that hamstring limp after about the third step, it was like it kicked back in and it was full fire again. And he scored a touchdown on this play, all in one play. It's like he pulled it at 45. By the time he got to the other 45, it had gotten back right. And he outran all of those guys on that kickoff return. And it was just like at that moment, this cat is different. He's different. That's what I'm saying on the sideline. This cat is different. You know, think of somebody pulling the hamstring. They're not going to continue to run another 45 yards, but he scores on that play. And it was all about us winning that game is what he was trying to do, man. And he didn't miss a rep after that. So just kind of the mentality of who Shyheim Brown is.
On the topic of special teams, because we're allowed to watch practice. Coach Norvell doesn't want us talking about depth charts and all that. But I think it's okay to say that I've watched a lot of the special team stuff, and they don't put a lot of freshmen out there, and the true freshmen. And there's some of them where he's the only true freshman out there, which again I think speaks to his athletic ability, but also his intelligence and learning what he's got to do, but then also wanting to be out there and being physical. And it's definitely impressive. Have you talked to him much since he got here? Is he? I know one of the things he said when he came was that your advice to him was, that you put in a good word for him. Don't make you feel bad about saying that to your alma mater. Has he called you? Has he checked in with you since he's been here?
Yeah, I think it's a weekly check-in, and it even goes back to his first interview, media-wise. I think the one that they had him in either a coat or tie. He had something on it I can remember. But he asked me, how did I do? He called me Pops. Pops, how did I do? And I said, you did pretty good. I'm impressed, but we got to always strive to do better. That's the thing. We want to always strive to do better. So I mean, it wasn't bad, but I don't want the does. I don't want those things. Because at the end of the day, that's going to make you money down the road. And I just always that's good advice. All four of Shawana, which is his mom, all four of her boys, they all look up to me as a father figure. And it's Pops. How did I do? And that was just the interview. It wasn't even about the play yet. Then I started getting the videos, of some of the stuff, and I'll comment, but I'm also one of the critical comment guys. Like, you're making that hit the other day when you came down from safety. I'm like, but I'm the D lineman that pulled him down by the ankles. I don't know if that was all you with the pop, or if the D lineman was pulling the other way at the same time that you just happened to make that hit. So, I'm always gonna continue to push. Like we're not gonna settle for, that you're doing all right. How can we do better? How can we get a step quicker? What we have gotten done with the better read here or there. All those things are impressive. Those, if I touch it, I should catch it. Interceptions. We had some breakups there, but if I touch it, I'm supposed to catch it. So that should be a takeaway. But just always things like that when he's sending me film and just trying to get my approval or my advice. But definitely proud of what he's doing. And the sky's gonna be the limit if he continues to never settle, for that or think that I'm there, I've arrived. It always has to be, what can I do to be better?
I have one more, and then if Michael wants to wrap it up. Yeah. So he's mentioned the history of Lake City and Florida State. Timmy Jernigan and yourself and Trey. Obviously, there's been a lot of guys that have had a lot of success at Florida State. What is it about the football players from that community? And I remember, man, when I was in high school in the late 80s in South Florida, we would hear about Columbia, Lake City, Columbia. What is it about the tradition and the love of football in that area that's produced so many great football players?
Man, the thing that I always refer to is rural country boys is what I would say. And it's changed. It's changed from the time that since I was here and to where we are now. But it's just a different. I'll tell our guys we would only take our water when we would go play away games because it was something in our water. And we drink well water, and it isn't city water. You know what I mean? That comes from the city tower or whatever. It's well water where they've drilled out deep wells, so it's something in our water. So, we take our own water when we go play places. No thank you if they want to give us ice and water. It's something about our water, man. So I don't know, but kids they start. Pop Warner or Rec Ball here, they start early, and I think all of the young pups, all of the young lads, their whole gauge for them is to make it to the high school to be able to earn their stripes as Tigers. You know, whether you're playing on this team or that team when you're in Pop Warner Little League, their whole goal is to make it to the high school and be able to put on that helmet with their stripes. You know, and I think just that mentality, everybody isn't going to make it. That was the hardest sell to parents. There's so many intangibles. There's so many numbers that, you know, with the recruitment, all that thing, but they all have hope that they're going to college and they're going to play in the NFL. You know, it doesn't work that way, but they all come to work. That was one thing I can say about all these kids that I've had over the years. It didn't matter what I tried to put them through. You know, I always was taught during that era in the 90s was our thing was to teach them how to strain. Teach them how to strain is what, you know, Coach Glad and the motto and Coach Andrews, all those guys, it was teaching us how to strain. And if you could teach your mind, you know, that my body will do whatever my mind tells it to do. You know, I think that it's a mentality here that these kids actually believe that. I mean, and I didn't go too far away from how strenuous our mat drills was that we did here in Lake City every summer in the heat. That it was almost on the money of everything that we did in that gym, you know, in the mat room. We would do all of that stuff here, but it was a mentality, man, that by the time you've done that for 5 years, because I get them as 8th graders in February, to the time that they leave, you know, as senior year, you've done that. You're trained a little bit different. That, you know, man, we go play IMG. Shyheim isn't scared that we're out there with the number one team in the nation that year or any other guys were. We went out there. They're another team. We say our practices are the hardest that we're going to play at any time. So it's just a mentality that, you know, I think if you can make these kids here in this town, this community, believe in what you're selling, they'll run through a wall for you. And he's definitely one of those guys.
Yeah. My only two quick questions, you know, in my question part was, I guess, first off, you know, we probably get the question more is like, what position Shyheim's going to play at FSU because he does so many things. And I know he did that at Lake City for you. So I guess the first thing is what position did you feel like he really just made such a major impact? I know that's really tough because he does so many things. And then secondly, talk about just the relationship with you and Coach Norvell throughout this whole process. And I'm sure you guys talked a lot, not just about Shyheim, but just in thing in general, but your impressions of Coach Norvell. So that's kind of it for me.
All right. Well, you know, just first and foremost on question one, Mike, I really believe wherever they take and they spend the most time with him in whatever position it is. And again, you got to think about this kid and him leaving here and going there. He did so many different things. I don't know where he focused on one to be really good at a position, you know, and you have to think about that. If you're giving me a system overload on all the different things that you want me to do, and I'm playing here this day, or I'm playing here this series, and there this series, when we're practicing and we're working, where am I getting the individual time to develop into whatever it is that I'm going to be? So, you know, I think that has to be a mindset that he is very versatile, but when you're very versatile, where are you getting that specific training in any position all the time? You know, so I think once they find it and focus in on what it is, he's gonna need. He's just raw right now. I mean, it's as far as him being able to do all those things, but every day I'm getting this individual drills. I'm getting this individual work at the position that I play. So I think whenever they figure it out, that's going to only help him be even more a better player than you know it's anticipated that he's going to be. I think you can at times throw him at different places, but he needs to be able to get trained at a specific position, you know, especially at this early age. And guys, I'm one that is still the same as I was back when I played college and pros. I'm not one that seeks attention. I don't go crazy about attention. It never has really been about me, but anything that I've done with sports. But you know, Coach Norvell made it his business to reach out when he got hired. I guess to all of his former Noles that are coaching or whatever that case may be, you know, I had a really good conversation with him, you know, when he reached out. But even before that, just was extremely impressed with his when he got hired and he did his first, or they introduced him in his introduction speech. You know, just I felt the same type of juice that it was for me when I walked into Lake City, a decade ago. That's how I felt when they introduced me at the quarterback club. And, just the things that he said in that interview or in that introduction press conference, I was just thoroughly impressed. You get a coach that talks about special teams. Like that was one thing that, again, he wanted that to be his baby with special teams. I was just impressed with so many things when he, again, came out in that initial press conference, and then having a chance to talk with him. And, it wasn't even about anything crazy. Just want to introduce myself. The doors are going to be open here. If you ever need anything, call. I thought that was unbelievable, in any regards. And I had a good relationship with Coach Fisher, not necessarily one with Coach Taggart, but I was really impressed from there. And when I picked up the phone one night at 9:30, 10 o'clock, I don't even remember really what time exactly it was, but again, I was getting a little frustrated in the process because here's a kid that I know was very, very, very good. I have a lot of friends that are coaching, a lot of coaches that have respect for it. Again, have respect for me. They'll pick up the phone whenever I call them, head coaches to coordinators and assistant coaches all over the country. But I called Coach Norvell that night. I called maybe 5 other coaches. I had sent pictures of Shyheim to coaches in our off season the year before when he was in the weight room, and I mean, just looking like a freak at 6'2" and ripped up and everything else. And I didn't get a hit back. But when I called Coach that night, and he said, I'm watching the film, and I get a call the next day, and this kid has an offer because of what he saw on film or what his staff saw on film. Then at that point, it makes me know I'm not crazy. That I think this kid is very good. But then someone else saw it, watched the tape, and said, yeah, we want him. And it wasn't we're going to play this cat and mouse game. And if this kid doesn't sign or if that kid doesn't commit, then we'll call you back on him. It was like, no, this kid is awesome. And, from there, it wasn't going to be with Shyheim a cat and mouse game. We're going to see who else is going to offer now that Florida State is offering. No, he's like, I'm committed. So, our guys know there that everybody from Lake City that went to FSU went to the league. It's a fact. I do know that every state national championship that we've won has had a Lake City player on it that was a starter. I know that. So I'm thinking, all of these things magically work together that in the next 3 to 4 to 5, we're back in business with one of those natties. So, I'm just excited that, here's a kid that I'm crazy about it, has grown up around me and not only got a chance to coach him, but to mentor him, that I'm excited about him being over there. But just like you said earlier, I put my stamp on it. You better not get over there and mess up, because I'm coming and it's going to be a belt. It's going to be a belt in my hand when I get there. So I'm just excited, man, that we have another Nole over there from here.
I lied earlier when I said I was done. I have one more. So, because about that, what I don't understand is, and when Michael went over and saw him, and then when I saw that they offered him and he committed, and I saw he was a DB, and I saw he was listed at 6'2" coming out of high school, I'm thinking he's probably, my thought was maybe he's undersized. Like, that had to be the reason. Coach, the first time I saw him, the first day of preseason camp, and I saw him and I saw those thighs and those legs, and that, like, what? I don't understand it. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, he looks like he's got a frame that he's going to keep growing into that frame. It's not like he's a little dude. So anyway, I imagine you must have been getting mad at one point because it didn't seem to make any sense. What's cool though is he never seen. I mean, at least when we're talking to him now, he's like, I just knew it was going to take care of itself. Like, he doesn't sound like he was that worried about it. Could you?
And he wasn't. He definitely. Well, he wasn't a kid, and he didn't ask me. Now that's the thing. He didn't ask, Coach, can you call somebody around him? I'm getting worried. It's not happening yet. He didn't ask that. It was the fact that I know this dude can play. I know this dude can play there. I think it was going to be a great fit for what Coach Norvell is doing and how he was changing the culture and all those things. I just thought that all of that stuff, the timing was right, that it wasn't anything that Shyheim coach, I need you to help me. It wasn't that. Like, I know that you can play, so I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure I can just get you seen by people. And he had gone to different camps and all those things, but it was, now I'm going to do my part to make sure you see me. I tweeted out something even before the call to Coach Norvell. I tweeted something out, that this kid could have played with us in the 90s. He could have played with any position on the field when we played the national championship, when we played in 4 of them in the 5 years that I was there. He could have been one of the guys of the 11 on the field in some position during that time. And that spoke a lot, and I had many comments, but again, we didn't get offers at that time, and picked up the phone that night, man. And I was extremely happy that the move happened the way it did. And like I told you earlier, being a head coach in high school, it's a head scratcher, because here's a kid, academics on point. I can't tell you that he's a kid that's getting in trouble in school. I can't tell you he's a kid that I know is leaving doing drugs. I can't tell you that he's a kid that has a bad home life. I can't tell you any of those things, because it isn't the case. And he has the physique, and he makes plays. What more do you want me to say? He's not slow. He's not weak. I mean, what more do you want me to say before, like, the offers start rolling in? And, there's some people that are going to say Brian reached out, and this is one we missed on, because either we didn't look, or somebody that was watching film was half asleep when they were watching film. I don't know, but I'm just glad it was my team that was the one that made the right decision, and he's doing well while he's there.
Yeah, and to kind of follow up on that, first of all, I've got to know Shyheim really well, during his senior year, and this is a kid that remembers the people that are in his life. Like, I see him all the time on campus. He knew I was out. I mean, that June month, let me tell you, Brian, I was out there for 12 hours, like, every day, because they were open period. Shyheim is the only guy that every time he saw me came up, he was make sure he'd say hello and hug or whatever. He always remembers the people. He's very likable. His teammates like him. He's very popular. But I can't stress enough to people, like, until you see him in person, the film doesn't do it justice. Like, he is dramatically impactful in just with him being on the field. So I think that's the thing that stood out to me when I was over there. I was blown away, and I've seen a lot in 21 years, but I was really blown away. He was so much better than I originally thought. And I think Ira kind of shares the same sentiment now, see him in practice, but I think not only is he a great player, but he's a great person too. He's a great kid. He's a great guy that I think kids that remember where they come from, whether it's Lake City, Madison, I don't care where you're from, they remember the people that are in their lives that impact their lives, or they had a relationship with. Those are kids with character that you want in your program.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I think just to wrap it up, I think the fact that, as you said, Coach Norvell and his staff did see the talent when you kind of put a bug in their ear. And I think this freshman class they brought in has been impressive. They've got a bunch of young kids like Shyheim that I think are going to make an impact this year. And I know Shyheim didn't get a lot of hype during the recruiting process. I think we took care of that during this Zoom call. But I really think he's going to live up to it. And I know they're going to, I do think they're going to play him at safety. They're going to play him on special teams. I think some teammates have said they could see him playing a linebacker. But I think the big thing is he's going to get opportunities and just continue that pipeline, like you said, back to Lake City. So we appreciate you taking the time, Coach, and hopefully we get to see you when you get into town.
Absolutely. Ira and Mike, thanks for having me.
You got it, bud.
Take care.
All right. Take care.